From Southwest Florida Public Radio, this is Gulf Coast Live Arts Edition. The Naples Players was founded in 1953. The community theater troupe performs in the Sugden Community Theater in downtown Naples. It's been named the best live theater in Southwest Florida 6 times by the Naples Daily News Readers Poll and is ranked as one of the top 10 community theaters in the United States. As it celebrates its 55th year, we'll explore its 2 current productions. The Women of Lockerbie is a poetic drama written in the structure of a Greek tragedy. The drama, loosely based on a true incident, tells the emotional story of loss, healing, and hope. And then Neil Simon and Marvin Hamlish partner with The Goodbye Girl, a fun and funny musical. This is Gulf Coast Live Arts Edition. I'm Amy Tardif. We're celebrating the Naples Players on today's show. CNN and Money Magazine cited the troupe in September as one reason why Collier County is one of the top 5 quote, best places for a long life in the United States. The Naples Players formed in February of 1953, performing the show I Remember Mama in the auditorium of what is now Gulf View Middle School. It became a not-for-profit and performed wherever it could for the next 22 years. In 1998, following a $6 million fundraising campaign, the Players moved into the Sugden Community Theater on 5th Avenue South in downtown Naples. With an all-volunteer cast and crew, the Naples Players perform year-round to more than 65,000 people a year. The season includes 7 main stage and 4 studio productions. The Players also present 5 Kids Act shows each year. Today, we're talking about 2 of this fall's shows, The Goodbye Girl and The Women of Lockerbie. Joining me first from the cast of The Women of Lockerbie are Janina Birtolo, Danny Atkinson, Bonnie Knapp, and its director, Anna Segreto. Anna Segreto, you're the director, so let's start with you explaining to us the plot of Women of Lockerbie.
Well, The Women of Lockerbie takes place 7 years after the crash of Pan Am 103. 270 people were killed during that terrorist attack. It's 7 years later, and the Women of Lockerbie have been confronted with the reality that all of the remains of the crash, including the clothing of the victims, will be burned. Their desire to wash the clothing and return the clothing to the families of the victims is thwarted by George Jones, the American bureaucrat who has orders to burn the clothing. So that's the central conflict. There's a sub-story, too. An American couple, the Livingstons, have come because Madeline is in deep mourning for the loss of her son, and she's roaming the hills in order to find some remnant, some piece of him. That's the subplot. And Deborah Brevoort weaves it together in this wonderful tale.
When you say the clothing, do you mean what was in their suitcases?
What they wore, anything that was scattered about was retrieved and put into bags, labeled, marked, and stored until this day.
What they actually found was 11,000 scraps of clothing. That included what was in suitcases and what was just blown apart, what was on the bodies, little pieces. And the women eventually, that's the true part of the story, is the women eventually did wash all 11,000 scraps of clothing.
Right. That I was going to ask. It's loosely said to be loosely based on the story of Flight 103. So, what's embellished? What's different?
I think the Madeline and Bill Livingston story is different. The fact that it took place 7 years later, the actual laundry project, as it was called, happened relatively soon after the crash. So that's a bit of the fabrication.
I see. Notes say it's written in the structure of a Greek tragedy. Could you all explain?
Well, that's also loose. It's a loosely structured Greek tragedy. We have a chorus who basically, because the Greek tragedies originally choruses sung their parts, I decided to underscore the choral parts and some of the monologues with music. And Jeff Weiss, our lighting director, created the original music. There are episodes in which the various people in the play, the various characters talk to one another and unfold the story. And then there's the resolution at the end, and I don't know, should we tell them what happens? Or perhaps we should wait. It ends on very hopeful note.
Janina, tell us about your character, Hattie.
Well, I play Hetty, the cleaning woman, you know. And I'm the one who's the spy. I keep abreast of what Mr. Jones is doing. He's the American diplomat, and he's got plans to burn the clothing, so I keep my eye on him, and I keep the women informed.
And Danny, you played George Jones. Talk to us about him.
Well, he's in Lockerbie to burn the clothes, and he's just there to do a job and get things done, and the women always get in the way, and Hattie is always spying on me, always keeping the women abreast of what I'm doing, where I'm going, to try to get me to stop doing this. So I start out the villain, which is unusual for me, and at the end there is some redemption for me, so it's a very multifaceted role.
And Bonnie, you're Olive Allison. Who is
Yes.
she?
She is part of the chorus, and she's also an important part of the storyline. I can't tell you everything because then I'd have to kill you. You know? Oops. And so she's very involved with this couple that come and with the other women of Lockerbie. And I think a lot like Madeline, the American woman, she's been in mourning as well for 7 years, except in some respects she's able to handle it better. I don't think everyone would know as much about her as is shown in the story.
We're talking about the Naples Players production of The Women of Lockerbie today. It opens October 29th and runs through November 22nd in the Tobye studio at the Sugden Community Theater. Our phone number is 877-GCU-TALK. That's 877-428-8255. How difficult was this play to direct, Anna? Or is it? You're still in this process.
Well, when I first read it, I was struck by the beauty of the language. And that's what drew me to it. But more so by the fact that it was an ensemble piece. I don't think there's a single role in this play that's not important. Every character is vital to the core of this very beautiful play. That really appealed to me. So basically my job was to make certain there were no stars, but that everyone was a star, actually. How difficult is it to direct a play like this? I would say no more difficult than to direct any other play. I work with people. The script is there so that I may work with these people. I love working with them. I love working with actors because they're committed, they're exciting, they're hard workers. They give of their time and energy so readily that I'm amazed, actually, at how wonderful it is. It's the joy of my life, really, to work with these people. And as I said, I work individually. I don't know if I should tell them what I told you. I told them that I was kind of a pain in the butt and a stickler, but that's how I work.
I think a director has to be.
Yes.
Well, that's also how we learn.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Now, Anna, you studied acting and directing at the American Stanislavski Theater in New York City. So how do you draw emotion out of your actors and actresses?
Well, one of the things we did was I had them write autobiographies of their characters before we even began, rehearsing. And they had to write a backstory. They had to know who they were before the first rehearsal, before they set foot on stage. And the autobiographies were really quite wonderful. I found that they did research about Lockerbie, about the characters, about the event, about the people themselves. Bonnie gave me a book that she found about stories of the survivors, which she researched. And it was really quite amazing. The characters just flew off of the pages as they read their autobiographies. And then I also wrote a series of questions for each of the characters for them to answer, which I felt would help them go into the characters' emotional depth. For example, with the choral women, there are parts where they have to tell George that they found body parts and that they carried them to the morgue. So one of the questions I asked was, what does that feel like tactily? What does it feel like emotionally and psychologically? So there were questions like that, which I also asked in order to get them to basically, as I say, occupy the characters.